We know that diversity, equity, and inclusion matters. Diversity in terms of our diverse leaders there across the leadership team, across the organization. Based on research that we've done around the world, ethnically diverse teams are 36% more likely to outperform from a total returns to shareholders perspective than non-diverse teams in the bottom quartile of ethnic diversity. Gender diverse teams are 25% more likely to outperform. Inclusion also matters, and we've seen employees increasingly willing to walk away from an opportunity or not interview with the company at all if they don't perceive the leadership team and the culture to be inclusive. So younger employees are about 2 times more likely to raise the need for inclusion, and almost 40% of global job seekers have walked away from an opportunity. Equity, there in the middle, in terms of outcomes, are also important. Employees who perceive the talent processes to be fair are 3 times more likely to want to stay with their current company and recommend their company as a great place to work to others. So diversity, equity, and inclusion matter. But we know that over this last 18 months of COVID, with many countries in very different spots, COVID has affected women as well as diverse employees, much more so even than others on average. And there's broad diversity within that. And so how do we think about the return to work, but the return to the workplace as an opportunity to really accelerate how we include diverse groups across leadership teams, across organizations? One of the things that leading organizations have done is really gone on the offensive to use this as a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to reimagine what return could look like, not to go back to the same old, but to really reinvent across a few different dimensions here. The first is around productivity. It's interesting. A number of leaders have asked me, well, how do I know if I don't see my employees in their seats? How do I know if we're being productive? And I asked, well, how did you know that they were being productive before, right? Hopefully it wasn't just because they were in their seats and you assumed they were doing good things. And so getting to deeper productivity measures, outcomes, deliverables, what are we actually working on here that adds value? That's been a real game changer. We have seen an increase in productivity. We've also seen an increase in stress and hours worked, but productivity has increased largely in most industries and within insurance across the board there. We've also seen talent as an opportunity. Now that geographic barriers are somewhat lifted, how do you use talent and recruiting to look for tough to find talent, analytics talent, digital talent, diverse leaders across the board? And so using this as an offensive retention play has been important. Actually, in an article that we just released today, employers have found that about 1/3 of employees are leaving, and they're actually leaving without another job in hand. They're just saying, you know what, some of this is not aligning with my purpose, to our conversation just earlier, and I want to look for a new job. So I do think that attrition is going to heat up and get a lot tougher before it gets better, especially for diverse leaders. Efficiency in terms of digital enablement, collaboration, but then culture. Culture has been an important one, and I think some leading organizations are thinking very proactively about what is the culture that we want and how are we going to build that in proactively as we return to the workplace. Some companies actually have created a culture calendar across the year, within each quarter. When are we getting together in person? When are we going to reinforce our culture and our values? We've even seen some companies approach the return to the workplace as a real planning. They're sort of treating it as an offsite, right? The office as the new offsite, and thinking about, how do I plan for the natural interactions that I want to happen? How do I plan for creating an environment that is attractive to workers to come back to? So that has been a real challenge as return to workplace teams think about this new normal, right? What does the space look like? What do the interactions look like? What does the flexibility look like as more and more employees, in fact, up to 70% of employees saying that being able to work flexibly, at least part-time, is a top priority in selecting their next job. And finally, what are some principles that leading carriers within insurance, but also more broadly, are using as they plan this return to the workplace, hopefully with an eye to increasing and accelerating diversity and inclusion? They are being quite deliberate versus drifting back, deliberate about how they plan their days, their weeks, interactions. Some are saying, we know that stress has been high, mental health needs have been higher than before. And we want to make sure that employees have days off, coordinated days off, time to kind of disconnect. We've also seen some organizations say we want meetings to be 25 minutes and 50 minutes so that there is a chance to take a break in between meetings if you're not in the office. And if you are in the office, to catch up naturally and talk with others and build those mentoring and sponsorship relationships that are so important. Measuring what matters, getting to the bottom of productivity and the outcomes that are going to make a difference to the business and to customers and policyholders. Capitalizing on the learning opportunity has been another theme, and making sure that you can test what is working, but then pivot really quickly if something isn't working. But how do we approach this in a data-driven way? And then finally, framing this as our change. This is our future of work to evolve to reinvent together, and keeping a very open line of communication with employees about what's working and what's not framing the return to work as the final answer, but this is phase one. This is what we're going to try. We're going to listen to you to see what's working and adjust as we go in a data-driven way, but also in a very nimble way. Thank you.